So I want to talk tonight about front suspensions. So we're not talking necessarily about steering, because that's a separate subject, but of course it all works together. Um, the front suspension on the MGTC is like a crummy old truck. I mean, it is a solid beam axle across the front. It's supported by leaf springs. The hub bearings are roller bearings. The kingpin is about this long. I don't know. It's 6 inches long, maybe. That's two guys in Mexico. What's that? Six doubled about eight, about 20 millimeters, 20 centimeters. So it's a real short kingpin, and it wears. And if 4 inches wears and you get a little wiggle out at the end of it, a 19-inch wheel, you get it. So it really wobbles a lot. So getting good kingpins on a TC is just a replacement deal. You got to keep them greased, but oh my gosh, they just aren't very durable. It's not a very good system. And Alec Issigonis was Greek, British automotive engineer, came up with this double wishbone suspension that they started with the Y types and then brought over into the TD, and that runs all the way through 1980 MGB. So at least the whole system looks exactly the same from 1950 through 1980. But I think, in fact, only one part remains the same all the way through, and that's the rear A arm, not the front A arm, because those weren't originally drilled on the TD for a sway bar. But the rear A arm. It's got a AAA part number. It's a real early Nuffield number on that piece. So that whole system stays pretty much the same. The um, the shocks start off as on the T-type start off as Girling. I don't know. They changed to Armstrong. What cost? Reliability? Don't know. But they went over to Armstrong and they stayed Armstrong right through the end, except for the MGC. The A-arms and bushings are um,
What do you want?
are tough. I'm going to use my mute all button here. Thank you. Um, the A-arms, the bushings on the inner end against the fulcrum, waste away, fail, collapse, just shot like the ones that I showed in my constant contact email that I sent out. Um, and when you go to put new ones in, the polypropylene ones, I think I'm not, anyway, the red ones that you can buy, you got to goop up with that Vaseline stuff so they don't squeak. Those things are really nice. The MGB GT V8 bushings are also really nice. Some people say, well, I got to get a hard bushing in there. Well, put needle rollers in there if you want a hard bushing, and then you'll feel every little tiny bump in the road, and it's uncomfortable to drive. You've got to have some, you've got to have some rubber in there somehow to absorb some of the road bumps and the vagaries in the road surface. So if you're in a race car, of course, the track is supposed to be pretty smooth, and you're supposed to be going around that and not worrying quite so much about the comfort of the suspension. So that's why race car parts are not suitable for road use, because in this case you'll end up with too harsh of a ride. But those red bushings offered by Moss and other people are great at that. The other end of that A arm that comes out towards the outside of the car and sits at the bottom of the kingpin gets slotted. The bolt that goes through that gets slotted because a distance piece, which sits on the inside of the trunnion, on the TDs, the TFs, the A's, the B's, is eventually, if you don't grease it enough, or is often enough, it'll rust and become one with the bushing at the bottom of the kingpin, and then something's got to pivot when that whole suspension moves up and down. Something out here at the end has to pivot, and it ends up that the bolt gets frozen and begins to saw a hole in the A arms. In all of my years of doing this, I've only ever seen one A arm completely fail. Other people may have seen that too, but I want to tell you it's pretty rare. The front suspensions can get in just terrible, terrible condition and never break, never fall off the car. The trunnions on the top and bottom of the T-type and MGA. They start off brass. The trunnions at the top, they're called links in the workshop manual, top and bottom, and then they stay fixed, and the kingpin moves between them. The brass ones are real nice, but the steel ones rust. The ones at the bottom, of course, the ones at the top don't get filled up with any water, but the ones at the bottom do, and they rust. The link rusts, and the kingpin also rusts. So I've only ever seen in all of my time one kingpin lift out of a bottom link, out of a bottom trunnion. The guy's going over railroad tracks, and something happened, and the car came up. The kingpin kicked out and then did not go back into the bottom trunnion, into the bottom link, and poked out. And of course, he was sitting on the road with his tire all flayed out and everything. It had to be towed into the shop. But I've only seen that once. So those front ends are really, really durable. But on the T-type and on the MGA, the kingpin is much bigger around than my thumb. And you hit something real hard, a pothole, a curb, you can bend that kingpin. I sent a picture of a bent kingpin in the constant contact. It's not necessary to take the kingpin out of the stub axle to know that it's bent. You can hold it right up in front of you, and you can see it go out on an angle and have a bend on the end of it. You can straighten those. We used to put those in the press and just cold straighten them out again and get them really, really straight. Or you can buy new ones. It depends what you want to do. Um, the roller bearings in the hubs, there's a distance piece that goes between those roller bearings because the hub nut is supposed to be all the way tight, all the way tight. And what does that mean? 60 pounds, something like that. But if the distance piece that goes between the two roller bearings on the front suspension, if that distance piece is too long, then the bearings aren't going to seat into the hub as they should. On the other hand, if that distance piece is too short, it'll stress those ball bearings and cause them to wear out prematurely. So I've never seen a problem except once, and that was at Lake Delavan, Wisconsin in 2010 when um, Jeff Schlemmer and I were tag teaming doing tune-ups out in the grass, and I jacked up a magnet. Don't remember why I jacked it up, maybe to adjust the front wheels, the front brakes. And as the wheel came up off the ground, I saw that it kicked. It bent a lot, and I grabbed it top and bottom, and it really wiggled a lot. So in the grass, in the field next to Lake, wherever it said Delavan, Wisconsin, I pulled that hub off with without very many tools, and then was able to drive the bearings out and put a piece of wire down inside the hub so that the bearing would collapse against something tightly, wasn't loose, and therefore when I tightened it all back up again, it spun freely, but didn't wiggle top and bottom. That was a bizarre field, literally a field. It was in a field of grass. When we come out with the MGB, the front suspension gets dramatically better. Oh my gosh. The kingpin is encased. The kingpin is still, I'm trying to show with my forearm, but it's got a bushing at the top, which is part of the stub axle, and a bushing at the bottom. There's no way that kingpin can bend. I mean, I suppose they have. I've never seen one all my years of doing this. I've never seen an MGB kingpin bent. I've seen them wear out at the bottom. I mean, they get a horrible amount of slop on the bottom bushing. Failure to lubricate on a regular basis. Jeff Powell pulled his 1970 MGB apart after 100,000 miles. Nowhere on the front kingpin because Jeff's a maintenance guy. He greased his front suspension every 3,000 miles. It was great, but we used to pull them in that hadn't ever been greased, and we'd have to get the torch out and heat them up to even get them loose to put grease into them, and then change the kingpins if necessary, which is a very expensive, very difficult task to do it at home. Just not because anything is magical or anything. It's just you got to collapse everything. I'll talk about that in a moment. So on the MGB, the shocks go bad. They most often run out of fluid, and then they bounce, bounce, bounce. When they bounce, 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 then the coil spring can work harden and fracture, as that one did in the picture that I sent out in the constant contact um, mailer. I've seen that many more times than several. It's not unheard of by any means at all. The shocks can also freeze. I don't know what happens to them on the inside, but they can go stiff, and so you try to press down on the car, nothing happens. It won't bounce. There's a spring there, but the shock is so stiff that it doesn't allow the car to bounce up and down. That's a really harsh ride. Oh my gosh. There are taper bearings that are set up in the MGB and the MGA twin cam both, and the MGC. And this setup is just so far superior to roller bearings, but it still requires on the MGB and the MGC, the twin cam, that you tighten the front nut, that front nut about 1 1/8 of an inch. You get it really tight, 60, 80 pounds tight, really tight. But you have to have enough shims between the bearings so the bearings don't collapse against their races. If you don't have enough shims and you tighten that up to 60 pounds or 80 pounds, the front wheel's going to lock up. It can't turn. It can't turn. On the other hand, if you have too many shims up there, you get it 60 or 80 pounds, and you can still grab the hub and move it in and out of the car. Maybe not very much, but you're only supposed to have 2 or 3 thousandths end float once it's all put together. So the proper number of shims allow you to spin the hub absolutely freely, spins nice and freely, but once it's greased and put together and you grab it, you cannot feel it tunk, 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 no tunking with grease in it. If you set it up with oil first to make sure that you've got the right number of shims, then you're after the slightest tunk you can get so that you can fill that with grease then, and with the grease in there, you can't feel the tunk. If you have a magnetic base dial indicator, you can put that against the rotor of the brake rotor and put the little finger against the stub axle and push and pull, and you should get 2 to 3 thousandths end float. Now, in a disc wheel car, this isn't too hard to do. You can shake the hub, and you can make a case for not even having the brake rotor on when you're setting this thing up, so you don't have to fight all the weight. But you can shake the stub axle, the outer bearing comes out. You can fish out the shims and change them. There's a 25, a 10, a 5, and a 3. When you buy bearings, buy them as a kit. I think Moss Motors, sells them as a kit. You get two of each or something or other, and you just have to mix and match. It's a laborious process to do. But with a disc wheel, at least you can do it. With a wire wheel, oh my gosh, you're way down 3, 4 inches down inside that hub. You can't see what's going on. It's a horror. So anyway, before you take the front end of your MGB apart, before you take the front bearings apart, pull the pin out, if you can pull the pin out, and then tighten up that nut to 60 or 80 pounds and just feel it. How does it feel? Does it feel like it's there's no tunking going on and yet it spins freely? Great. Someone else has set it up correctly. When you take it apart, don't lose any of the pieces and put them back in the way that you've disassembled them. On the other hand, if you tighten up that nut and it jams up tight, then of course you've got to go at it and add some more shims. So this is all detailed in the workshop manual, but lots and lots and lots of the MGBs, MGCs, twin cams are set up incorrectly. They're set up just like an American car, where you tighten the nut up until the wheel locks up, and then back it off to the next pinhole for the split pin. Put the split pin through and let it go. No matter how they're set up, correctly or incorrectly, I've only ever seen a stub axle fracture once. The outer wheel bearing came off. And the reason that came off was because it burned up because there was no grease in it. When you go to grease the front suspension on an MGB, MGC, twin cam, it's not necessary to grease the inner wheel bearing. It's not even necessary to grease the inner wheel bearing on an MGA. All you have to do is put grease in the outer bearing. I don't know, is it the diameter, the larger diameter, the centrifugal force? The grease gets back there. I don't know how, I don't know why it works, but I do know that it does work that way. And you never have to grease the inner bearing, but you do want to grease the outer bearing. That grease migrates to the inside. A lot of discussion here about MGB wheel bearings. Midgets, midgets have only one arm on the shock. It isn't a wishbone. It's not a wishbone. It's just a single lever. And when that midget came out, what did Thornley say? It only weighed 1,400 weights. Wait, I got to get my calculator out to see what 114 pounds times 14 is. Anyway, it wasn't very much. It's a very, very lightweight vehicle, and the suspension was okay for it. But at least on the U.S. models, pretty soon we've got reinforced doors, and then they add the rubber bumpers, and then they add the Triumph engine, the cast iron engine, and the Triumph cast iron gearbox, and now the car weighs what five? It must weigh 500 pounds more than it did when it started off as a Bug-Eye Sprite, and that front suspension is taxed to its limit. So the thing that goes wrong with a midget 1500 is the top bushings in the kingpin fail, and the kingpins begin to roll back and toe out all at the same time. Easy fix. Just change the bushings in the bolt up there. Just do it. Also, the shocks on the midget seem to go bad more quickly uh, uh, than the other cars. Maybe it's because they've got the one arm and they're under more stress. They leak more. Those shocks are all there are on the shocks on both the Girling and the Armstrong shocks are two pistons, and the two pistons push shock oil, hydraulic oil, from one cylinder into another. That's all they do. And in one direction, there's one prohibition to it moving, one certain amount of resistance to pushing the oil through. In the opposite direction, it's a lot less. So the compression stroke, when the shock arm is moving up, or conversely, the car is moving down, there's a lot of resistance, but in the opposite direction, it's only about half that resistance. So if you've got a shock up on your vise, and you've got a hold of the arms, and you're pushing it up, oh my gosh, it's really hard. It's really hard. You're pushing, yet it falls much more easily. That's correct. That's correct. So it used to be that Castrol sold Shockall, Shockol, shock oil, but that's not available anymore. So now you can buy proprietary oil. Moss sells some stuff um, uh, for the shocks, or you can just go to Napa and buy hydraulic oil, buy the thickest oil you can get. I think you can get up to about 50 weight. That's what we used to have mixed for us by the Bob Mendelson at the this oil company in Ohio. We used to buy it in 5 gallon pails because when you go to replace the oil in the shock, which is only supposed to be 20 weight, if you put in 50 weight oil, it makes up for some of the um, failures of the rubber seals inside there and so forth. But it isn't just hydraulic oil. It's got a anti-foaming agent and a seal sweller in it, whatever those compounds are. Um, but Universal Oil Company in Ohio used to make us 5 gallon pails of that. Of course, it lasts a long time. When you go to fill the shock, the hole is a 5/16 hole. It's if you put a oil can up against the hole and start to squirt, it just blows back at you. That doesn't work. So what I've done is take an oil can, a dedicated oil can, put a rubber tube on the end of it. On the end of the rubber tube, I put a piece of 3/16 copper tubing, which has got 1/8 inch inside diameter, 3/16 on the outside. Put that into the rubber tube and put a hook in it. Then you can roll that hook into the inside of the shock, pull the trigger on your dedicated oil can, which has got shock oil in it, and glug, 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 and it pushes the oil in, pushes the air out, and when it spits out a whole bunch of oil, you're full. You're all set to go. You can leave it just like that. Usually a shock that's gone soft and is bouncy, maybe you can put oil in it and have it work again, but that oil went someplace and it went out the axle. So the rear shock, the axle sits above the two cylinders, the two pistons that are working. The axle's up above it. So you can lose fluid through the axle. And it'll begin to make noise and clunk and stuff like that, but it'll still keep shocking or dampening the harmonic motion of the springs. That's why they're called dampers. But the front ones, once they've gone bad, you can rarely fill them back up and have them work for a long time without leaking their contents out. Um, the roller bearings on the midget uses roller bearings just like an MGA does or a T-type. But you can change those for taper bearings. I think the kits may be available through some of the suppliers. We used to just buy the individual Timken bearings, the races, and what you end up missing is the distance piece that goes between them. And I never got around to making up new distance pieces and putting in shims like you would on an MGB, so that the front suspension is really, really strong. On the other hand, I've never, ever seen a fractured stub axle on a midget, at least not from road use. I've never seen one from racing either, but you get into the world of racing and all the considerations change. It's like, that's why you never buy a race car motor for your MGB, unless of course you're going racing. You just buy street stuff. So the MGC is very different, altogether different. Oh my gosh, it's got torsion bar suspension. Torsion bars, I think they used that on the Q type back in the 34 or something like that. It's been a long time. It was a long time prior to that they used torsion bar suspension. So the stuff that goes wrong with its MGC is the kingpins, just like the MGB. They're not the same kingpins, of course, following the rule that if the part can possibly be the same, it's not. So the MGB kingpins are fatter at the bottom than the MGB ones, and I think even fatter than Healy ones. Healy's also use the same type of suspension that an MGB does, with the same kind of kingpin and stub axle assembly. There's a lot of bushings on the front of an MGC that can rot or fail and cause clunking and cause things to go out of alignment. And the shocks are tube type shocks. just old like Coney's, like just Monroe shocks, the kinds you used to see advertised. We'll change all four of your shocks for 99.99. So they just take a normal kind of shock. There are shock kits for MGBs that replace the Armstrong shock, not the Armstrong shock itself, because that's part of the suspension, but that replaces the function of the Armstrong shock with a tube type shock. Don't do it. Okay, it's my experience. Just trouble. The brackets crack. The stuff is engineered by home mechanics. And it's just you don't get any better ride. There's nothing superior about it. I see tube shocks put in the back of MGBs. It's like why? The Armstrong shocks that are back there are just fine. They're too strong. They're too weak. Change the oil. Change the springs. Send them to Peter at Worldwide Imports in Madison, Wisconsin. Tell him what you want. He'll make them up for you. Anyway, I just don't see any point in changing the shocks on an MG. But there are some improvements that can be made. The MGB is set up with originally about 7 degrees of caster. Remember, there are three functions. I've got my hand up. So if this is oh man, I can't do this. This is a kingpin. This is the caster. This is the camber, and this is the toe in. So if you get your hands up in the air, and I can't do it because of where I am and my camera's so crappy, but with your fingers up and down, caster is this, camber is this, and toe in is this. So on all of our cars, caster and camber are fixed. Not so much on the MGC. You can change the caster on those a little bit. Excuse me, the camber on those a little bit. But on the MGB, the original caster is about 7 degrees, which is necessary to keep the car in a straight line. So when you take your hands off the wheel, the wheel turns and you come back to running straight down the road. But that was built for bias ply tires. Now that everyone runs radials, you can de-caster, take so much positive caster out of the MGB, tilt the whole front suspension down just a little bit to get rid of some of that caster by using caster shims. They're phenomenally expensive for what you're buying. But when you do that, then remember that you must then reposition your rack and pinion because the pinion comes up off the rack on an angle and meets the steering column. And if you move the front suspension that much, it's no longer they aren't going to meet anymore. So you just have to reshim the rack. It's not complicated, but just keep that in mind. So anyway, that's sort of all there is to it. I'm a firm believer in keeping it all original, with the exception of adding a sway bar. That adding a sway bar on the front of your car, the anti-sway bar, roll bar, whatever you want to call it, is the single most dramatic thing you can do to a car which does not have a sway bar. So that includes all TDs, TFs, almost all MGAs. Very few MGBs came in without the roll bar. 70, 74 and a half, 75, they didn't have front roll bars. Oh my gosh, what a terrible mistake that was. They corrected it by 77, put a monster sway bar in the front and in the back. So why not add a sway bar in the back too if you're going to add one in the front? Because it'll pull out of whatever you hook it to. The forces there are so dramatic. And the ears that are in the back of an MGB to hold the and the rear anti-sway bar are so durable you cannot duplicate. Well, I don't want to say you can't do it. Of course you can do it, but it's not easily done. You can't just clamp something to the bottom of your trunk and hope it's going to work. It's going to pull out. So anyway, that's just a comment about rear sway bars, but the front ones, oh my gosh, do it. If you've got a T-type or an MGA, certainly an MGB that doesn't have one now, add the sway bar. That is so dramatic. So anyway, that's about it that I've got. I prattled on here for way too long, a lot longer than the 15 minutes or so that I thought I was going to talk. So now I'll open it up. And if anyone's got a question or a comment about front suspensions,
So
I'm happy
John,
to entertain it.
John,
Fred,
talk about the dust seals on the trunnions and the kingpins on the A's and
yes.
T series.
Um,
Talk about the dust seals.
uh, by the time you're done restoring the car, you've got to take them off and change them again because they fail so fast. Weren't you, who was talking about that before? And that there's some aftermarket thing you can just
Yeah,
wrap around.
yeah. Declan Burns makes these. They're
Oh my
3D
gosh, look
printed
at these.
and they're split. So you don't have to disassemble the front suspension to replace these.
And what's the name of the supplier on that, Fred?
His name is Declan Burns, and he's in Germany.
So that's what,
I,
Byrnes or something?
yeah, and I can send you his email address if you want.
I'll put that in the next mailer.
Yeah,
Those are so handy.
but now he makes these with like a nuts and bolt sets. So you can there's three on this one and two on this one, but you can also just use lock wire and tie them that way. I've done them both ways.
Okay, or zip ties, I would
Yeah.
expect.
Well, the zip ties might be too big,
Okay.
but also he makes solid ones as well. So they're a material that doesn't deteriorate like the aftermarket rubber ones that we've seen for the last 20 years or so.
I tell you, no, 40. Count them,
Yeah.
50
Yeah.
years. Well,
Now,
50 years ago, you're getting factory ones, but
there's somebody on MG Experience also 3D printing them. I don't know what materials they're using, but I've seen a lot of buzz on MG Experience for somebody who's making these things.
thank you.
They're through Etsy, the
Okay.
Etsy.com.
Okay.
That's how she markets them through there. But I've heard that some people have difficulty getting these on. She only makes the solid ones, so you have to disassemble the front suspension for those.
Fred, can you put
Okay.
this in the chat?
I'll see if I can get the information put in the chat.
Thank you.
Sure. On the other hand, Marty's probably struggling with her
Yeah,
German right now.
I haven't found the right one yet. There's several different Declan Burns, but I'll take whatever Fred finds.
Okay. All right. Anyway, Fred, thank you so much for that. I'd forgotten all about that. That's the most frustrating thing with some of the modern suppliers' quality, and that is that by the time you're done with the restoration and you go, you look at your front suspension, the rack boots and the suspension bushings are already failing. It is
Now,
so,
I believe I saw some from Rimmer Brothers that were actually like a silicone or something.
okay,
But
right.
it's been a while since I looked at those, so I can't guarantee that they're still supplying a good quality one.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you
Same
very
thing with
much.
the steering rack boots.
Thanks. Thanks. Steve Schuback, you got your hand up. Waiting for Steve
Yeah, John,
Schuback. There we
can you hear
go.
me? Okay.
Yes.
So so can you just repeat what so I've got radial tires on my B. What is taking out caster do for the handling?
It makes the steering easier. If you can imagine this, and you can't even see it unless you put a yardstick against the chrome strip on the side of the car, and have somebody sit in it just still and turn the wheel one way and the other way. The front of the car actually lifts up and down.
Okay.
Okay. And it lifts up and down less with those caster shims in there. Therefore, steering effort is easier. The
Okay.
downside is that the more caster you have, this positive caster, the more caster you've got with a, like that, that you see those motorcycles with the front wheel half a mile out in front of him. That guy can stand up and open his saddlebags and make a sandwich and never have to touch his wheel because that thing just stays straight. That's
You're
just the
not going
way
to turn. Yeah.
the nature of it. But so the less caster you have, the less the steering wheel wants to snap back. I haven't. I don't think I've installed more than one or two sets of those, and I've never really done any heavy duty investigation myself. I don't know whether it's really amazing or if it's partly amazing and partly snake oil. So
So how much does it take out? If you got seven, are you going
three
to like,
degrees.
oh, okay. Okay, so you go down about four.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And it's if you're going to do it, of course, you're going to end up changing the pads between the front cross member and the frame of the car, because why would you go in there and use the old pads? And these are shims that are used in addition to the pads, I do believe. And um, to get the front bolt out, you've got to take the coil spring out because you've got to reach up inside the front cross member. So
Get
all of a sudden,
Guess what? No, no, no.
yeah. If you're doing a whole front suspension, you're starting off and you're doing a full restoration. It's like, hey, make a case for it. But afterwards, I'm not sure. Yeah,
I
okay.
got a driving car now. Why would I take it apart just to do that?
Nobody takes their car apart from here until October. Well, except the guys in Australia, their cars are apart, right? But up here, not down there. Up
Yeah.
here, yeah, yeah. You use the winter time for repairs and the summertime for driving.
I'm in California. I drove yesterday. It's raining
Well,
today. Yesterday I drove.
great,
So,
great,
thanks,
nice.
John.
Thank you.
There any effect on the understeer characteristic when you dial out that
I
caster,
don't know.
particularly the autocross crowd, because that's where you really have to yank at a crowd, and that's where that lean back at the kingpin helps.
Don't know. I don't know. I know the product is sold. That's about it. It's been on the market for maybe 25 years. So, and I've never heard anybody come up to me. No one's ever come up to me and said, "Oh my God, I put these things in. It's like it's transformed the car." Sway bar, yes, but not the anti-caster shims. So, okay, Ryan, you got your hand up. Ryan Kubinoff. But you got to unmute yourself first. Oh, I didn't mention that in my instructions in the beginning. Always try to, and there's two ways to unmute yourself. One is to laboriously search out the audio thing at the bottom of your screen and click it, and then you're going to, of course, forget to mute yourself afterwards. Or more simply, when you want to speak, to press the space bar, speak. When you're done, let go of the space bar, you're muted again.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ryan, you're
I just want to make a comment as far as bushings go for suspension and improving everything like that. Those purple Super Go bushings, um, I can't, I can't say enough positive things about them. They last much longer than the rubber ones. They don't degrade as fast, and they're nowhere near as hard and as a stiff ride as the red ones.
okay.
I have them. I first put them on my midget. I've got them on my bug eye. And I live in a section where I've got railroad crossings all over the place. And as opposed to getting basically bounced out of my car in the past, I literally go over these railroad crossings and the car goes bloop, and not a problem. So I can't, as we all know, it's a pain to swap out bushings and stuff like that, but I cannot say enough positive things about those things. And
Yeah.
they are from Australia, so they're upside down and they're barely holding on, but apparently they work when they come to the North America. So
So
there's
how do you find these?
Moss has them. Moss has
Okay.
them, and
All right.
there's a couple of other places that have them as well. But I definitely can't. They're fantastic. I absolutely love them.
They're purple. Okay.
Yep.
That's what I wrote down. Hey,
Yep.
Ryan, thank you very, very much.
Not a problem.
Okay. So who's after Ryan? We've got Peter McCarthy.
Yeah, my question was going to be, you didn't mention midgets about front sway bars. I assume you do recommend them
Oh, yes.
if you don't have one. And somebody in the chat said, what size? And then another guy said I got 3/4 on my bug eye and they're great.
Oh my God. Three
Those
quarters
are in
is
the those are in the chat.
okay. 3/4 inches, massive, massive. The MGB one, the MGA and MGB one is 9/16. And then for the GT, it goes up to 5/8. 3/4 is like race car stuff. So everybody's going to make comments about how it feels and everything, but I would think 5/8 for most applications. 5/8 would be about it. But the midget one is 9/16. I just fitted one to a midget uh, a couple of months ago. So, and
Thank
that
you.
requires different A arms. Well, it doesn't require, but you've got to get the pattern, and then you got to get the brackets and drill holes and put three 5/16 bolts through to hold these little ears on the A arms. So
Thank you.
okay, yep. And Richard Pittenger,
Yeah, hi, John.
howdy.
Uh, on my 80B, 49,000 miles that I've had about 3 years, I've got no idea if anything's ever been done with the bearings in the front wheels. My my typical thought on my older American cars is, take the bearings apart, clean them real good, repack them, put it back together. You indicated that you just add grease to the front bearing. Do they ever need to be taken clear apart and cleaned?
Oh, I suppose you could make a case for it, but not not for a long time, probably. If you just get that front bearing out of there, just pack it with grease in your hand and push it back in, it'll be great.
What, any particular grease? Do I need to
Number
worry about
two,
compatibility with
no,
what's
just no, number two, lithium grease.
okay? All right. That's good news.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Judd,
Let's
you're
see if
up.
it works. Yeah, it did work. Okay.
Oh, there you go. That's the oh my gosh, yeah. That's what happens to those MGB and MGA in the
That
T-type.
happens to be a TD, but yeah, that's a TD. And let's see if I can do this. I'm sorry, I just did the wrong button. Uh, anyway, while I'm doing that, uh, I don't know if my A has a roll bar or not. I know the TD does not. And of course, it doesn't have any way to put one in without a welding torch and all. Is there a clever way to do it? And would you just buy an MGA one and put it in?
Well, the on the T-type, you can bolt the sway bar to the frame extensions that come forward from the rack and pinion. You can set it up just like an MGB. It's up on a little bit more of an A. The A arm isn't square. It's kind of tilted, but it still will do the same thing. You can bolt that on the underside there. On the MGA, 62, at least 62As are all set up for them. But oh my God, you got to take off the front bumper, the front splash apron, take the front frame extension off. Oh my gosh, to disconnect that from the body. Then you can lay the sway bar in the top of that. But prior to 62, around 62, there's no provision for a sway bar. So in this case, you take your front frame extension and send it out to Sports Car Craftsman in Denver, Colorado, and they've got a jig. They'll make sure it's absolutely straight, put in the dishes, and send you back with the brackets and the bushings and the whole sway bar assembly if you so want. So
Okay, well, I'm lucky. Mine's a 62 Mark II. So, but I'll just have to crawl under and look. I really don't know if it
yeah,
has.
there's some scoops up there. So that's your TD. I know that's a TD because I can tell that's a half-inch BSF thread.
But
Um, So yeah, that's worn that's worn pretty badly. Oh my
Oh,
God.
that's ugly.
That's what that augered out lower right arm did because it was no grease in there, and as you described exactly, it became a saw, and
Yes.
it, that was scary. That wasn't my car, thank goodness. That was
Yeah.
one of the club members.
Usually what happens is the head of the bolt and the nut end up getting trapped on the bottom side of the A-arm, and that's as far as they wear. So I've only ever seen one that was torn all the way out.
Oh wow. Anyway, great stuff, John. I will look and see about a sway bar on my TD. Although those B's and A's can't keep up with me going up the mountain.
Well, straight
Look at
line
Bob
stuff.
laughing. Look at Bob laughing.
Straight lines are one thing, but it you just can't believe the difference it makes in a curve. It's just it's in a turn. It's just unbelievable.
We
So,
can't keep up with Judd anyway.
well, the most important part of a fast car is the nut behind the steering wheel, right?
That's right. And one
Yeah.
last comment. This was somebody said they drove yesterday. This was it Thursday? No, last Friday.
Yep, that's real pretty. I saw that. I was on the same road. I saw that same waterfall driving down to Florida.
Yeah, you
So
would. You would.
someplace in Kentucky.
But
So
in this case, it's an ice fall. That's all frozen to the rocks.
yeah, yeah,
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful
yep.
stuff. Good time to drive
May I
too.
ask a question?
Okay. Yeah,
I'm through, John. Thanks.
sure. Steve, hang on just a second. William's going to come in here.
Thank you. The grease fitting on my 1950 TD, on the top of the swivel trunnion,
Hmm.
the little cap that holds the grease in, I have one missing.
Is that the grease zerk you mean is missing? Or do you
Well,
mean
it's
the disc the size of a nickel that sits on top of the kingpin?
yes, it's the disc the size of a nickel. And I don't know if it's threaded or
No, no, it's swedged in there. It was put in, and then the metal was beaten down around it. Judd, do you have that in your hand? That was just a picture, right? Of that kingpin. You don't have that handy, do you?
No, I don't. I can
Okay, all
put
right.
my head back up easily enough.
No, it just I wanted a picture of the end of it to show that, and it also has a small hole right in the middle,
yes, yes.
William, to allow air in and out, to allow water in. Sort of wrong. Um,
It's a
so
vent.
so in the meantime, since it's on the top. And since no one probably sees it, if you put a tip like from a cane on top of it, right, or a tip for a table leg on top of it, just something that it's pretty good diameter. That looks like it's about an inch diameter, but just find something to push on there so dirt and water and stuff doesn't fall in there. But to do it properly, you'd need that disc, and I do not have the diameter of that disc, and I don't have one in my hand. I'm in Florida in a condo. I don't even have one at the shop.
Moss has no idea what goes in
Well,
there.
yeah, well, if you talk to, yeah, no, they wouldn't. But you know what you can do is this because it's kind of fascinating. Um, is send me an email, and I will see if I can get a diameter on that for you, and then you'd go to Napa and buy a freeze plug, 1 inch freeze plug or a 7/8 freeze plug, something like that. With luck, it's a fractional size, and you'd scrape it and then tap it with a hammer, tap tap tap, and once it was in place, then take the rest of the brass that was around it and fold it around and get it back into place. A nice Saturday afternoon task. So
So you press the freeze plug into it, it would shape itself into that
yeah,
opening.
it's got a little bit of a It's a little convex.
Yeah.
And you would because the old one popped out, so a new one will pop in. It's just getting the right diameters. You just use a hammer, just a judicious use of a hammer, maybe a bigger hammer.
I'd
And
suggest a hammer on a socket on an extension so it really fits.
yeah, yep.
A hammer on a what?
Well, you want to use something in between the hammer and the disc. Another hammer, a much smaller hammer,
Or a block of wood or something.
well, yeah, that might not that unless it was maple or something really strong, it might not take it. But yeah, something. Yep, or socket might do it like a half inch socket, a tall one, so you could grab a hold of it and hit the socket on top. So something like that. Send me an email. I'd be more than pleased to come up with that diameter. I have no idea what that diameter is, but I'd love to find out.
Well, I thank you very much.
Number.
You're welcome.
Moss doesn't even give it a number, that part.
No, it's not. It's in the workshop manual, in the parts manual, it would be NSP, N period S period P period, non-serviced part. So Steve Leposki, what's up?
It's been covered a little bit, but I've been living off my new old stock parts or stuff I bought years ago for so long that I don't often have to buy new stuff. But we've been talking a lot about rubber seals, lower kingpin seals, bushings. I mean, I use V8 bushings. Can I reliably order rubber suspension parts from Moss and not worry about it? There was some talk about the purple bushings. Many years ago, I did use plastic and trying to do everything I could when I had a 76 to help the handling, and just never loved the plastic and reverted back to the rubber and the V8 bushings. But anyway, my short question is, can I just reliably order from Moss, or is there a better rubber source?
The better rubber source would be the ones that Fred Horner showed from Declan Burns and Marty. And Marty, did you have any luck coming up with that yet? Finding
Yeah,
that?
it's in the chat now.
Okay, it's in the chat section. So if he's got stuff for MGAs and T-types, he's probably got it for Bs. So I think that's the way. And those purple bushings, I use red bushings, but the gentleman who was on before said he liked the purple ones more in his bug eye. So I'm just going to hit a mute all right now just to get rid of the background noise. Anyway, that would be the way. But my experience is that I hate to name anybody. The modern suppliers, the quality of the rubber still after 40 years isn't any good. I don't understand why. I mean, the original stuff, we used to take original bellows, rack boots off MGA rack and pinions, and you put new ones on, and they might last as long as the car was in the shop. They might last a year, and then they perforate. It's like, wait a minute. We found some Ford boots that fit in MGB perfect from Napa, $60 a set, not 30 for a set, 60, but they lasted forever. They dropped out of the system. They must fit some car that Napa doesn't supply any. Well, somebody quit making them, but I know rack boots are out there. So, and maybe this Declan Burns is a place to go. So.
Have we talked at all about the difference between the original rubbers and these urethane bushings? The fact that the rubbers work in flex and the urethanes are actually slipping on the pins or the A-arm. They wear and the flex ones don't.
So I did mention that the ride's harsher. I did mention that, but I didn't talk about the wear that occurs. But boy, I can't imagine it's too bad. But it depends on how much dirt gets in there. the V8 bushings, if you can get really nice MGB GT V8 bushings, those are sweet. But some of the modern suppliers get the rubber on the V8 bushings the same place they get their other rubber stuff, and it's not good. It's very frustrating. So that's why, just like talking about release bearings, throwout bearings, should you use the carbon one or should you use the roller? You use the carbon one. Of course you do. The roller one's all wrong. All the geometry is all wrong. But for a while, the carbon ones, you put it in, it might last first two or three clutches, it might last a month, and then it fractured. Well, at that point, a roller one's better, because it lasts longer. So it's I'm still in the neighborhood of the purple and the red bushings, only because it's so difficult to make sure that the other rubber bushings are good quality. Any more questions about front suspensions?
Real quick, when you talk about the red and the purple bushings, you're talking about urethane bushings.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
Or something. I'd probably propylene, or I'm not a plastics man, but
And you don't find them too stiff or too stressful on
no,
the suspension.
I've got the red ones in my MGA. Love them. They're great. Is it any harsher than the rubber ones were? Probably, but not, it isn't a killer to me. But then the one guy here with the bug eye said he used the
Yeah.
purple ones, and
Yep.
that was the medium grade, and
Yep.
he liked them better. Was that you, Ryan?
Yeah, it's me. So literally the purple bushings are not as squishy as the rubber. Like the rubber ones you can literally take in your hand and squish, right? The purple ones you need to work at it a little bit, but you can get them to squish, and that's with your hand. The red ones, you need to put them in a vise in order to get them to maybe think about potentially things. And the purple ones, I'm telling you, they're a happy medium. I've had them on my car for 3 years now. And I'm, a railroad, not that I recommend this, but a railroad crossing at 60. Look, I have all my teeth. So, I mean, like honestly, try them. They're a couple dollars. They're more money, but I'm so happy with them, and I have them. I have those things on every bushing I can get from them. So
Okay.
there's that.
And what's your source for those?
I literally I bought them from Moss. It's either Super Go or Super Pro, and it's the purple ones. And the putting them on and dealing with old rubber ones, and then went to the red ones, and that was a rough ride for as long as I had them in. But I put the purple ones in, and I'm quite happy with them. So there's that. So
Okay.
I'm off my
Just a
soapbox,
quick-
but I highly recommend them.
A quick comment on the MGB GT ones. They're still available. You can still get those,
Yes.
and they're much firmer than the standard, but they are not split. So you have a little bit of work to get them in.
But I don't know who makes the rubber that goes on them. See, that's
Yeah,
the
I've only
issue.
had mine in for a year or so, so I can't testify to the
Yep.
longevity yet.
Can
Right.
you tell us where you got them?
I believe I got those on Moss or Northwest,
Okay.
Northwest, whatever, you know.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
John, I've got a quick question.
Oh, here, I got a couple other people in line. Hang on just a second, Bob. Lonnie Cook, you had your hand up there? Well, maybe not, but Henry does.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
good. This is Lonnie. On the bushings, I went ahead and bought the polys from Moss. I cut out the MGB bushings that were in my A-arms before, just because I was doing the whole front end. I like them pretty well.
You
And
is
then
the red
also,
one, the red ones or the
no,
purple
they're
ones?
black. They're like $6 a piece or something. Um, this is for a TF.
Okay.
And then for the seals, I bought the 3D printed urethane off of Etsy. And
Okay.
they went on really, I thought they're pretty easy. You have to work at it, but some silicone grease gets them right on. And then, lube everything up with red and tacky. And I'm happy with them so far. They haven't fallen apart like I had some others do immediately.
Are they black?
Yep, they're black and they
Okay.
have they look you can see the print lines where the layers were laid on if you get right up to them. But I don't. You'd have to stick your face in the grass to do that. Look up.
How do they feel loose in your hand before you put them on? Are they
They're
stiff
stiffer.
or are they squishy?
They're not like rubber. They can you still hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
They're not like rubber. You can squish them, but they're harder and they feel thicker too. So when you put them on to snap them over the swivels, you have to, do some muscle. He has a video on the Etsy page that shows him putting them on, and it kind of helped. You just push them on, and of course everything else is easy. One thing I noticed, this is almost a separate question. After I put them on, I greased everything up before I put together, and then I put the new Zerks in. They didn't work. Put the old Zerks back in. They work. I can pump them, but I still haven't gotten enough grease in to go out of the hole at the top of the swivels and the bottom of the swivel, like the little disc we were talking earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something keeping that grease from the Zerk getting past the pin that's in there and the sleeve?
Well,
Up
it's
in
a that's a it's an Acme thread. It's usually when you assemble it, you just gob the shit out of it with
Well, I did.
grease.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. All right.
But
So
then
I don't know if you're going to end up with grease,
yeah, it always
spiraling
has.
out of the
Yeah.
top of that or not. Sometimes, when when they're more worn, they do it, but I don't know about now.
Well, I didn't put new sleeves, but I did put the new, the
Sure.
new, well, whatever you call them,
Yeah.
the little round things that go in there. And it's always squirted out before, so I don't know. One final question: the swivel, these 3D printed seals, the ones that go at the top and the bottom of the kingpin, are they the same on MGBs as they are MGAs?
There isn't that on the MGB.
Oh, okay. I'm doing a lube seminar at GOF next month, and I
Okay. Yeah,
or
they're not the same. The bottom ones are that go on either side of the A
yeah,
arm.
the side ones, but
Yep.
the ones that go
But
top.
the kingpin doesn't have seals like that at all.
Okay. Thanks a lot. I don't know
Yes,
much
sir.
about modern cars.
All right. Okay.
I
Henry.
had the same problem that he's speaking about, lubing up and getting the grease come out, and all it was a little hole in there was plugged up.
Okay.
And I just ran a pickup in there, and all the grease I wanted came out.
Okay. That's a wonderful idea. All you need is the tiniest piece of junk up in there, and it's going to plug up. So sure. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. So Henry, you're up. What's up?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Springs have a lot of tension, a lot of there's hazards dealing with those, and you can use spring compressors. You can work a combination with jacks, floor jacks, and what have you. But I thought it might be useful to share with people what you think is maybe some of the safer ways of dealing with springs as far as removing them and reinstalling them.
Okay. Well, the springs never hop anywhere. They only fall. Okay. There's a lot of tension on them, but they never go anywhere because they're so friggin' heavy. They just fall. So they're not going to jump out and jump across the shop. So if you've got a hoist, oh boy, if you've got a hoist and a transmission jack, oh boy, you can collapse it right there as long as you're way out at the end of the A arm, way out here's the kingpin, and way out here. If you're back in here, you'll lift the car off the hoist. Because of the triangles there in the construction of the front suspension. So if you're at home and you're doing it on jack stands, then my suggestion is you take your trolley jack with the
Yep.
4 wheels, you push it in from the opposite side, you put a chain around the back of the shock and down underneath the trolley jack, and then jack the trolley jack up against the outside of the kingpin and lift the kingpin up. You can't lift the car off the ground because it's chained
Yep.
to it, and it'll collapse it, take a bolt out, and then relax it.
Yeah.
And then just real carefully on that. That is just so easy. I mean, it's not easy. It's a
Yeah.
struggle. Any front suspension and exhaust at home are just so rear suspension some too, but the rear suspension you can do at home with
Yeah.
your chest and your arms and everything. But oh my gosh, the
Yeah.
front suspension, it just you using that trolley jack from the opposite side and coming through, that's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, and with a chain, that sounds like a really great thing. Every car has a different approach, and I was just curious what yours is. I've dealt with this, but it's a dangerous thing if you don't know what you're doing. So I think it's really helpful for you to, share your recommendations.
I
Thank
did
you.
it.
Thanks.
No, I was gonna do it. I
Thanks.
just didn't think we had it.
So I'm gonna use my mute all button here. And there we go. So do we have any more questions about front
John?
suspensions? Yes.
John?
Brett.
One thing I suggest in the working on the front suspension, both on the shock absorber, the upper trunnion, and on the lower trunnion, what I typically do is loosen that binding bolt on the two arms of the shock absorber.
Where it does this?
Yeah, and then I jam a thin screwdriver in there to spread them just a tiny bit. That makes the upper trunnion a lot easier to get on and off.
So I just take that arm right off. I take the transverse bolt out from the shock, and I take that 4 or 5 inch
the
bolt
pinch bolt.
out,
Yeah.
and tunk, and the arm comes off.
Yeah,
and then
I don't like to do that. I just split them a little bit.
Yeah, that's my guys used to do that in the shop because it was faster.
Yeah.
But boy, if you do it like that, then you put it all back together and tighten it all back up, and it's just great.
Yeah.
So
same thing on the lower on the spring pan. Just loosen two of those bolts and spread the A arms just a tiny bit for that lower trunnion. Makes it a lot easier getting those seals on. And if it's a tight fit, sometimes using a putty knives in there to slide it in there helps.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you want it. I always have that stuff. Everything's loose. You put everything together loose and then tighten it all up.
Yeah.
And that violates the rule of never fit a bolt unless you tighten it. So there's always exceptions to rules, but yeah. Thank you very much. I talked to your guy today, by the way, about his HIF in his Delta 9 cam, which I think is most of the problem. But anyway.
Well, we got that car together. You're talking about the wreck.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So anyway, we got it all together. He had tried to adjust the carburetors the way you suggested with the lifting the piston and adjusting the richness.
Yes.
I don't think that worked at all. We never got it quite right. So I set it back to 100 thousandths below the bridge, and we took it out on the highway at 80 miles an hour, ran fine, didn't overheat. Everything was perfect, had plenty of power. So I said, just leave it alone for now, drive it. And if you want to start tinkering with it later, but it's all synchronized right now.
When you get a hot cam in there, it doesn't idle right. You can't judge how it's going to run at 80 by the way it runs at idle. So you just have to go out and make runs and pull the plugs out, and looking. He told me the plugs were like bone white. I said, it's too lean. You got to richen it up some. I've got Anton's VP12 cam in my MGA, and it's you pull up next to me. It sounds like I don't know how to tune my own car. I mean, I've got the thing idling up at 1200 RPM,
Yeah.
just to smooth it out some part. But and it doesn't have much torque at the bottom end. But man, once you hit 2500, 3000 RPM, it starts to weigh in 4500 RPM. Oh my God, it just comes alive.
Well, and this is the other thing I told him is that you don't want to be trying to accelerate at 2000 RPMs. You want your torque curve is at 3000 to 4000. So rev the
Or
damn
more.
thing up.
More.
Rev
Yeah.
the thing up.
That's what I told him.
He
I
wants to
said,
drive like an old lady.
I said, put it in a lower gear. Yep, yep. Okay.
Send him the link of the from Ford versus Ferrari when Ken Miles is telling the guy how to drive his MGA. Same exact line.
Yeah,
Right, Gerard?
Just watch that. Just watch that. Yep. Yep. David Basili, what's up? David, you got to unmute yourself. You got your hand up, and I'm here. I'm waiting, all ears, but you got to unmute yourself by pressing the space bar at least. There we go.
Now? How about now?
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so I'm in the process of swapping out my engine bearings.
Okay.
With the engine in the car.
Okay, what year, what model?
It's a 1980.
Okay.
And the car has about 118,000. The inside of the engine's never been touched, never been opened up. I was really surprised at how good a shape the connecting rod bearings were. Those were the ones I did first. I did all four of those. Very little wear on them. I was really pleasantly surprised. Well, I started on the mains, okay? And I actually started with the number 3 main, the one in the middle.
Okay.
And I ran into problems. I got the cap off, I got the bearings out. And then when I went to install the bearings, I ran into a problem with trying to spin the top bearing in, and I damaged the bearing. Okay, I had a little pin in the oil hole to push it through, to push it and rotate it.
That's the same, isn't that the same width as the 1 and 5?
Well, that's the thing I had a question about when I did the 4 connecting rods. Those bearings were all the same size.
Yes, exactly.
When I did the number 3, which is the center main, I pulled that apart. The 2 bearings were the same width. The top and the bottom bearings were the same width. But in the kit that I got 2 different sizes, a narrow and a wide bearing. Okay. So I didn't know what the situation was, but when I pulled apart the number 3 main, both of those bearings were the wide with the 2 holes in them, and they came out pretty easily. I spun them, with I put a little gadget in the oil hole and spun the top one out. When I went to install the new bearings, and they're standard size, I ordered standard size.
Sure.
I had a hard time spinning the top bearing.
Yeah, I understand.
And I actually damaged it. Okay.
Okay.
What it did is the bearing, when I tried to spin it in, it popped above the little pin I had created and put a crease in the bearing, which actually damaged it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was surprised that there are 2 different sizes. I haven't opened up the number 2 and the number 4 bearing. The number 2 and the number 4.
Those are much narrower.
They're
in
narrower.
In the kit that you purchased,
yeah,
you got 6 bearing shells that are the same size and 4 that are the same size.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then all 6 of those are available to use in the center one, because you can't change 1 and 5. You can't change those.
Right. I know that.
So you've still got some more bearing shells to use. And what I would do, the bearing shell is bearing shells like that is take some rub this on some sandpaper and just start to put a angle on it, and then you can get it into place. And I use a plastic like a wallpaper scraper or a putty knife. I use a plastic one that's just about that wide, and you can get it in the oil hole and push the bearing with that, and you can also push the old bearing out with that. So that's a pretty handy tool to have. Just a plastic Red Devil maybe from Home Depot um, um,
So,
plaster aisle.
okay, so on the number 2 bearing and the number 4 bearing, are they going to be narrow? Are those two going to
Those
be
are
narrow?
narrow. Those are
Those are
narrow.
narrow. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I think I've got enough to complete the job,
You
even though
do.
I marked up 2 of the bearings,
Yeah.
trying to put them in. The other thing that I notice is the thrust bearings on the thrust washers on the number 3. One of those thrust washers had some damage to it.
Odd.
It was misshaped on the top of it. So I wasn't planning on replacing those, but I am gonna replace them now.
Okay.
And so the question is the smooth side go against the journal on the crankshaft?
No, the slotted goes against the crank. The smooth goes against the bearing cap.
The smooth goes against the bearing cap.
And the
Okay.
slotted goes against the crank, so the oil can wick out of those holes, and the oil that you got oil coming in, and then having to do a T, and it's spewing out of the side of the bearing, and it then it gets in those slots, and oils up between the bearing face and the crankshaft. So the slots go towards the crank, away from
Okay.
each other.
Okay. The slots go toward the crank.
Despite what the first MGA workshop manual said, which told you to put them in backwards.
Right. The
So,
other thing that I was surprised at, I wasn't anticipating, I ordered new connecting rod bolts, thinking I was going to change not only the nut, but the bolt. But you're shaking your head. There's no way to get those
no,
bolts out,
no,
right? They're pressed in
no,
there.
no, and
Right.
there's no need to change the nut either. So after you get it all together, all torqued up, or reasonably close to torque, then take one nut off at a time. Take your spray carburetor cleaner, get it nice and doused down with carb cleaner. Use compressed air on it, and on the inside of the nut. Then use red Loctite and put a couple drips of red Loctite in there and torque it down to, what's the torque on that? 50?
The connecting rods are 33 plus or
Okay.
minus a couple.
Yeah,
The mains
35
are
then.
70. The mains are
Torque,
70.
yep. But use red Loctite on there.
Red Loctite. Okay, good. All right. I think that'll do it. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
All right, Bob Whitfield, you're up next.
Thank you, sir. I had a real quick question on steering.
Yes, sir.
On the suspension. The top and bottom links on the TD, there are 2 bushings that go through the links. An inside and an outside bushing that goes through the end links. And then there's a bolt and nut that goes through that connects everything together. This would be the top of the trunnion, or the top of the kingpin.
Okay, so there's that half-inch bolt that goes through that holds the shock to the trunnion or the link. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's actually an interior and an exterior bushing inside that end link.
Yes. Yes.
If those have any wear, what feeling should I be getting out of the? You and I spoke about this quite a while ago. When I have a hard right turn, my right starts getting a vibration that's kind of cyclic. And I have replaced everything, bearings, drums, and I'm still getting that vibration, but I have not taken that bolt out or checked the bushings that are inside those end links.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. You can do that easily enough. Well, with your trolley jack and a chain and
Exactly.
everything, and just see. You can also, if you take the tension off that by just jacking it up so that it's not hanging, and just take the tension off that with your trolley jack,
Yes, sir.
you can put a heavy screwdriver between the shock, the tire off, wheel off, force stuff around, put a crowbar in there, and just see if you can pick up any sense of movement in there
There
at all.
was I can grab uh, if the drum is on there or grab the back plate. I can get a little tiny bit of movement at the top link.
You shouldn't.
I know. Okay.
Shouldn't be any.
Could that be? I don't know how that would wear. Could the bolt itself have rusted? Maybe.
Well, what happens is the bushing wears against the distance piece, which originally was hardened, wears against the bushing, which is pressed into and then reamed in that top link.
Oh my! So if I had to replace both of those into the top end link, I'd have to disassemble the whole thing and take it to a press.
Yes.
Oh damn. Okay.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Sorry I asked. Thank you, sir.
All right. All right. Okay. So who do we have up next here? We got David Smith. What's up?
How you doing, John? Good to hear from you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I've got going back to a steering question. I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago about the steering column. I was talking about bearings, but I got myself past that. But I'm taking the rack apart.
Okay.
And
The
my
MGB?
MGB, sorry, 73 MGB.
Okay.
So my question is around the trunnion and shaft. Does that come out the front of the housing?
Yes.
And is the bearing that's in front of it pressed in, or do I just knock that out with it when I bang it out?
Just all you have to do, take the top plate off so there's no longer any force pressing the rack onto the pinion.
Yeah.
Then take your brass hammer and tunk 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 at the end of the pinion where it goes into the steering column, and that and the bearing will come right out the bottom. Of course, once you've removed the cap down there, but that'll pop right out.
Yeah. So the cap's off. I've taken the nut off, and
You don't have to take the nut off.
Oh yeah. Now that you say that, I realize I don't have to now. And of course, yeah, the brass washes out. All that's free, but it does come out the front through the
Yes,
bearing.
it does.
Okay. That's great. That's all I need to hear. Thank you very much.
All right.
Enjoy the night.
Thank you. Who's up next? Phil Drearden.
Hi, John. Philip Drearden from Auckland, New Zealand.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm not very technical, but I'll hold things up the screen. My question is about the throttle return springs for carburetors on a TD/TF. So I'm working on that at the moment.
Okay.
So there I've got the two carbs there.
So you've got the throttle return
Riley.
spring
It comes out the front.
That
You said you didn't need to take the nut off, and now that I see that, I
Here,
realize that we don't.
I've got to hit the mute all.
You wouldn't have
I'm
needed.
sorry. I've got to hit the mute all, but we're back to Phil. Just unmute yourself again. Excuse me.
Right, back again.
Okay, so the throttle return springs, you've got the rotary springs on the end of the shafts.
Well, that's my question, because every picture I look at doesn't show that bit.
Yeah, those are correct.
That bit and that bit. Well, sorry.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. Yep. So
I can't see a single image or photograph or anything that shows those things fitted to the carburetors for a TF or a TD.
Yep, they're all of them have it along with the MGAs. So it's real common. The springs are wound left and right, and if you put them on the wrong way, they tend to open the throttle instead of close it. So you only have to get the first one right, and then you've only got one left. So that absolutely will be correct. So you put the last thing that you showed me on first, there's got
That's
two long legs on it. It's
that
got
one there. No, yeah, that one.
it's got yeah. No, not him. No, the other one.
That one.
Yep, he's got two long legs, and those legs go over a horizontal casting that's right at the throttle. If you hold your carburetor up.
Yep.
Okay, so let's
I'll
look at
try not
the
to drop it on the keyboard.
yeah. Okay, all right. So we've got to come in from the end, from the outside, from the outside. So you can't hold all this and talk to me and everything at the same time. But believe me that that goes on first,
Yeah.
and then the spring goes on. And if you can put the spring on backwards and try to rotate it backwards, but then it obviously doesn't work. So you get the correct spring, and then you put the other piece on top of that and wind it up so it's got about a half a rotation of tension, and tighten down that 4BA nut, and that clamps it in place. And when you open the throttle and let go, snap, it's shut.
Okay, thanks.
So, and what I would also do, just to make sure, is once you get those in place and operating correctly, is to either look at your throttle disc screws, the AUC 1358s, and you might have to crack those loose and let those things snap shut a couple more times, just to make sure that the throttle disc is centered, and then tighten it back up. You shouldn't, if you just back it off a little bit, you shouldn't have to resplay the screw. But if you do have to resplay the screw, then take the suction chamber and air piston off the top and put a screwdriver down from the air inlet side, and get it in that splayed part of the screw, and just turn it anti-clockwise just a bit. So
Okay, thanks.
okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't have any more hands up right now. So I'm going to go on our chat section down here if I can make it work. I've been having real trouble making the chat section work, and I don't know, and I have trouble scrolling. Just a moment here. I've got here we go. Okay. I'm going to go through these really fast. Ryan Kubanoff. Anybody have an Austin? What kind of Austin, Ryan? Austin an Austin 7. Oh my, I don't know anything about Austin 7s.
Yeah, unfortunately, they showed up in my video feed, and now it's kind of, burnt into my curiosity. So I'm looking to,
All right.
I'm looking to see before I lose my mind and look at actually trying to purchase one. I want to see if anybody's got one to.
I think they were a real popular car, right? I mean, they were yeah. So there's got to be a club and an organization that supports them, and parts suppliers, NTG Services in England, Ipswich, or somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that if you want to build a Lotus 7, you start with an Austin 7?
Yeah, I mean so that's part of my problem is kind of like I'm looking at the Austin 7, like I'm looking at the Austin 7, race cars and hill climb cars, and it's one of those, because everybody needs 100-year-old car, because that's like, it's, because logic, and then unfortunately and those of you who know me who are on this thing all know that I made the mistake of, marrying an enabler who, the whole reason I have these cars is because my wife came home and said, hey, we should get a little convertible, something different, something nobody else has. So she's not exactly shutting me down. So yet, as she yells from the other side, yet. So I was just curious to see if anybody had one. That was all. All right.
Thanks. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. You should talk to Carol and Terry Luft. They're enablers in common. So Mike Baldwin says, when and how is it acceptable to cut down the front road springs for road handling improvements? It's not. Don't make your own springs. If you want to buy shorter springs, go ahead and do it. But that's going to screw up your camber, isn't it? If it sits lower, it's going to change your camber. So not caster, camber. I don't know anything about that. But you're dealing with the front suspension of the car and you can't just cut the spring. I know that because the springs are made and they're finished on the end, so they're flat. So if you want shorter springs, buy some shorter springs. Tony Rosello, off topic. SUT series have pins on the top of the float bowl and others do not. Tickler pins. Those are called tickler pins. Um, and um, and I've seen some T-Series carbs not have any pins. Why do some carbs have pins and some don't? I'll have to defer to Fred Horner because I don't know why some do and some don't. Um, Fred,
It's
you
just
got an answer?
the early cars didn't really have a fast idle or a choke. So to get them to start in cold weather, you tickle it, you just push it down, pushes the float, floods the carb, then you start the car, and it just helps it starting in cold weather.
Okay, but that wasn't the case with the TC or TD because they all had chokes.
The TC didn't really have a choke. It had a choke, yeah, it had a choke, but again, it was from earlier cars.
Okay,
It was
all right.
it was just to enrichen the mixture for cold
Okay.
starts.
Okay, all right. I understand that completely. It's like why does a TF have an ammeter? It's like you don't need an ammeter on a TF. You
And
needed one on a P type for sure. So okay.
I believe they kept the tickler until the end of the TDs. I don't think the TF had them, and
John,
MGAs didn't have them.
yeah, John, that mine does. My TF has two tickler pins in it.
Okay, so the
And-
TF was the last one. MGA did away with them.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm just curious because I've seen some TFs didn't have any, and then I
Well,
saw.
that's because they probably had to get replacement caps, so they just used later ones.
I see. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it's just for choke purposes. It's totally useless on my car.
Yeah.
Cold starting. Yes. Yep. It's like an appendix on a human apparently. Yep. Left over from when I don't know, ate roots or something. Yeah. Yep.
British motorcycles held on to the ticklers until the mid 60s at least. So they had to push down on the little button on your carburetor and you got a wet, gassy finger, and then you kicked it off and it fired.
Okay. Thank you.
I found on mine that some of those can disintegrate, which causes a vacuum problem or gasoline coming out of those holes where the little tickler is. So I replaced mine just for that reason. Both of them had actually disintegrated.
Okay. All right. I've seen that. They wear out at the bottom. Tom Gunderson, 57 MGA. I found that my wheel will leak air very slowly. What's a good fix? A good tire store. It's either the filler nozzle or there's something around the rim. Unless you've got tubes and you've got a slow leak. But if you got disc wheels, Tom, are you still on? If you got wire wheels, you got to have tubes.
Yeah, I've got no
disc
tubes,
wheels.
Disc, yeah, steel wheels.
Okay.
And took it to Discount Tire. We put it in a tub of water, and you could see it weeping from the center area of the wheel, not from the rim.
That's pretty bizarre.
Well, again, those wheels are supposed to have tubes in them. They were never meant to be tubeless because they're just riveted. They're not welded.
Yeah. So I guess what you could do, you can put a tube in it, but that's rife with problem. Or you can ID whichever rivet is causing the problem, take the tire off, all but sandblast it, get it really, really clean and gob on a whole bunch of silicone around there and just let it air dry. Like silicone compound that you'd use on an engine.
What about JB Weld?
That isn't flexible.
Okay. All right.
I go for the flex stuff.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Fred, thank you on that. Randy, what's the difference between a 74B and a 75 front end cross member, about 3 or 4 inches of added height to raise the car up. Remember, between 74 and 74 and a half, between chrome bumper and rubber bumpers, they raised the ride height of the car to meet some federal standard, so bumpers would match bumpers. So you cannot use those interchangeably. So here we got Marty's got some stuff on here. Jerry Stewart's got he's weighed in here on the earliest car and TC 0735. Who did I talk to today who had TD 0256? So guy from New York. But Brian Kyle owns that car now. And then let's see. Here we go. Just a minute. I have trouble reading this. Jim Newsoff. I was 74 that I've owned since 99. It's time to repair the rubber in the front suspension. What kit do you recommend? We've talked about this a lot. I guess either the purple or the red, but not the rubber because of the quality of the rubber.
Or the MGC.
MGC, I don't know. I don't know what's
Yep.
available there. I know
Those bushings were promoted in our conversation earlier.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks. Mark Webb says I also use the MGB-GT V8 lower bushing in my ADB. Those are they're not stiffer. They last for a long, long time, and they're really good. They're really good. But it's very hard to force them into the arm. You've got to use a press. Yep. And then Steve Lukowski says, I've always run the V8 bushings in my MGs, currently a 73 BGT. Would you consider that the best as long as the V8 bushing is from a good source? Yes. Yep, I had those in my MGA for a long time. And Phil Mendelson says, what should I use? But we've talked about it a whole lot. Bob Whitfield, John, are you familiar with coil spring airbags? No, I'm not. Some sort of
Yeah, it's kind of strange. As much as I've been under my car for the last year on reconstructing, I never noticed that you can't see through my coils. Somebody had previously installed these inflatable airbags. They're tubular and they fit inside the coil, and they have a tire nipple on the end that you can pressurize up to 30 pounds. And it will literally lift the whole front of the car up, or you can leave it at 5. And the idea, I guess, is to equalize load if you had a heavier load, or stabilize your drive, kind of like a sway bar. What I'm hearing you all saying over our discussion here is if I inflated that, I'm probably going to change the caster.
The camber, but
yes, I'm sorry.
But I've never heard of that. I only know MGs. I don't know any other car in the world. I don't. I know a little something about a lot of cars, but only a little something. I've never heard of airbags inside of springs, and it's like air shocks.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's like
lifting your car with air shocks. It doesn't sound like a good idea to me, but that's just me.
I have a VW Type 2 van.
Okay.
With these inflatable bags, and it's only for show. It means when you take all the air out, it comes almost to the floor, and when you park it for show business, it's only the way that I use it. When you're going to ride, you turn your pump up, and it inflates to the preset PSI, and then you go off you go.
Okay.
That's for the VW
I have
at least.
no idea who put it in there or why.
No.
And they're universal. You can get them to fit any coil. I was wondering if it was possible that partially inflated with 5 or 10 psi, they would act somewhat like a sway bar.
No.
Okay.
They may have been added because the springs got weak.
That's my next concern because I really don't want to have to replace the coils.
Oh, it's not that big of a deal. You just got to find somebody to give you a hand.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. On an MGB, how hot should the wheel lock get after driving? The wheel lock. iPad 5. Are you still on? I'm not even sure what you mean here. The wheel lock. You mean the spinner?
Knockoff?
Is that what we're talking about? Because if we're talking about the wheel lock, you don't mean the steering wheel lock. So the spinner shouldn't get hot. I mean, it might get warm, but it certainly should not get moderately hot. It should not. That means that there's too much friction inside the front wheels. How rebuildable are the hydraulic shocks? At home, not. I don't want to tell you what you can't do at home, but I tried, and I so you send them to Peter Caldwell at Worldwide Imports in Madison, Wisconsin, and here it is. Lonnie Cook's got the information right there, and plus Steve Leposki has given them a real heavy duty thumbs up here. So. Phil Durden said I use motorcycle fork oil in my shock absorbers. Absolutely. David Halliday says the Australian oil company Penrite makes an oil for lever arm shocks. It's available in the USA through Summit and other outlets. So anyway, that's interesting that they sell the shock oil. And if you have your choice of buying shock oil, originally the workshop manual calls for 20 weight. I always put in something thicker to make up for the wear that's happened in the meantime. Cheating, like putting in thicker oil to get your oil pressure up. So here we got shocks cannot be upgraded without matching them to springs. So this is what Phil Mendelson says, that the shocks and springs are a system. And if you change one, you've got to change the other. So maybe, I don't know. I mean, on race cars, yes, I don't know. It's stiffening up the shocks a little bit on an MGB feels good. Um, And then you can change the valves on the Armstrong shocks too, if you want. And I don't remember anybody ever saying that you had to change the springs at the same time as that. Here's the information for worldwide. For Spridget's, what diameter sway bar do you recommend? I'd say 9/16 or 5/8. David Halliday says, I also have Declan's Kingpin boots. They're great. So Rob Brackett, hey, Rob, nice to see you on tonight. Rob's got a 3/4 inch sway bar on his bug eye, and it changed the handling dramatically for the better. It just seems like that's way too stiff of a sway bar. But Rob Brackett tests electrical circuits, so he should know. He's a tester. So, okay. And here's all the information from there. Trunnion seals. What would cause tack? Steve Teal. What would cause attack gadgets to read low? Shows 2000 when it should be 3500. Well, there is a potentiometer rheostat on the back of the tach, but without knowing what year and model you've got, I can't tell for sure. But sometimes you can get that access to it. The later models, I mean later up through I don't know. I'm thinking of the earlier 6 inch ones or what are those in the 68 through 74, 74 and a half through 76 rather. Some of those have got a little plug in the back. You can pop out and put a screwdriver in and turn it and dial it in. Otherwise, it's rebuild time. So there are lots of different here. Sean Janelle, yes, really wish would what y'all were talking about, but I guess I'll have to learn how to work on my 75 midget. Yep. Oh, I see. Yep. Gauge. Then Ben Andrews, what year and model 65, 67Bs have potentiometers and circuit board you can adjust? Yes. Yep, that's all true. David Halliday, be careful fitting a large anti-roll bar to a midget. They have a tendency to pull the mounts out of the chassis leg. Yes. Yeah, there is just a lot of force there. But Rob Brackett drives his bug eye a lot. So 3D printed seals, Lonnie Cook says he tried those and they're great. Putting them on, they bind them from the place in Etsy, and he used Sil Glide to do them. Safety first, says John Lind. Please check your front brake caliper bolts. Lost one this past week. Ah, ah. That someone left it loose, and there's a I don't know what John Lind, I don't know what year you have, but there's supposed to be a lock tab on there.
Yeah, there no lock tab on there.
Oh my
Got the car without lock tabs.
Oh my
Tightened them
gosh.
down as hard as I could, and I've learned a
Oh my
lesson.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
it was
bolts
pretty
is
rough.
7/16 20, and plus it's like a grade 8. It's
Yeah, well, I got grade 8. I can't get them at Moss. The suppliers don't. I don't see them in the catalog.
Call Sports Car Craftsman in
Okay.
Denver, Colorado, and they will send you used ones. There's nothing wrong with, maybe there's something wrong with your used ones now that they've been flexed and bent and stuff like that. You might
Could
have
be.
want to chase the threads inside your stub axle too.
Right.
But Sports Car Craftsman, Denver,
Okay.
Colorado.
I did get one at Ace. I got
Okay.
a replacement grade 8 at Ace. It's a little long. Cut it down.
Okay.
Matched the other one, the existing one. Replaced
Okay.
one at a time.
You put
Red
Loctite
Loctite on everything.
You put Loctite on it?
Yeah, I sure did.
I bet you did. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my
I had
God.
to drive the car. I couldn't wait for a
Yeah.
tab
Okay.
washer, you
All
know?
right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Um, um, so Richard Pittenger wants to take the mud shield off the bottom of the radiator from his MGB, from his 80 MGB, but I don't think that's necessary just to drain the cooling system, Richard. I think it'll be okay. If it's not there, it's not going to hurt anything. I've seen them with and without, so I don't think there's a real problem there.
Yeah,
Cameron
John,
says,
this part's original. It's ugly as well. It's like
"Oh, okay."
masonite or something like that. It just
It's a pressed cardboard, some sort of impregnated, coated pressed cardboard. You can take it off with no problem at all. You just need a 3/8 deep socket. Squirt those the four studs with a lot of WD-40 first, and work those off real carefully. So you don't snap them. And there should be a single Phillips screwdriver into the cross member up front too. So
I mean, it's not
it's not critical for operation.
doesn't affect airflow through that.
Well, it probably does, but it's not as though when you take it off, the car blows up or something. I've never correlated any kind of heating problem with that being missing. So,
One other question, if I may, a little bit different subject. Brake lines, the flexible rubber
yes.
brake lines, on this 80, they're now 46 years old almost.
So you change those before you drain the radiator. Brakes are the most important part of the car. So there's two kinds you can buy. You can buy the rubber ones like original, or you can buy the Teflon. I don't know, they're considerably more money. Oh, they don't move, they don't expand. They seem to be okay. If there's two choices of original rubber ones, and one's $3.95 and one's $13.95, buy the $13.95. It's your brakes. Always buy the best when you're getting for brakes. But I don't think you have to buy the stainless steel mesh Teflon or whatever those are.
So that should be done.
Oh,
You're saying.
absolutely, tomorrow. Absolutely. Yep.
Because my daughter's got an a 2015 F-150 that just this morning she got in it, was backing out her driveway and popped one.
Yeah, well, everybody tells you 10 years on brake hoses. So you're beyond that limit now with your 1980, Richard.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, Cameron says, is there a chart with all the bolt lengths, with all the thread sizes and so forth for the entire front suspension? No, I don't. Well, I don't have one. I do have a decoder that will tell you that an FNZ 0406 well, wait, an FNZ, that's a nut, isn't it? But anyway, I do have a decoder, but then you need the factory workshop manual to show you all the bolts, and some of them are proprietary, so they'll have a BHH number on them, and that doesn't tell you thread length, anything. So contact me, Cameron, and I'll see what I can help you out with.
Yeah, the decoder page is part of the engine book that we've been selling.
Oh, is it? Is that in the engine book?
Yeah, you don't remember doing that? Yep.
Okay, all right. So here, Phil Mendelson says the same thing here. So anyway, Marty, thank you very much. That should sell one more book at least to Cameron. So Brad Schwartz, how often should we grease kingpins? How often should we add oil to the rack and pinion? Grease the kingpins as often as you can, at least as often as you change the oil. Every time you LOF, lube, oil, and filter. Oil and filters, that's the engine. The lube is all 6 kingpin lubrication points. The original MGBs I'm speaking MGB here. The original MGBs only had two Zerks. They right away found out they should have 3. So the third one was added to the bottom of the bottom side of the kingpin. But yeah, and grease it all as often as you can. Wipe off the extra grease. So, and the rack and pinion does not take grease. It takes 80-90 gear oil, and that is most easily introduced on the top of the rack assembly, right where the pinion goes through the rack housing, right on top of that. So you take the plate off an MGB, or you spin the big nut. I think it's probably, I don't know. It's huge, 9/16 BSF. That size jaw diameter, like up around an inch and an eighth or something, off the top of the rack, and take the shim pack out and drool 90 weight in there back and forth. I do have a video up about lubricating the rack and pinion, but that's how often you have to lube the rack. Once every 5 years, I don't know, something. So here, David Sanders says that Abingdon Spares rubber holds up well. Okay. And Dean Hickenlooper says that ADCO offers a sway bar for MGAs, which mounts under the frame extension. So it's not factory. It's easier to mount. And David Sanders says urethane bushings also come in black. So now we've got original rubbers, purple, red, and black. And it seems to me the black ones are the hardest ones, as I remember it. But there's how to order our book. George Curl says a good substitute for shock oil is 30 weight fork oil found in motorcycle shops. You got it. It's got the anti-foaming agent. It's got the seal sweller. Great. Thank you very much. Here we go. Steve Leposki says, my 2 cents worth. Among doing all these other things, I'm a coin collector. And at one time I had a really, really nice collection of US 2-cent coins. You can't, there it is. That's a 2-cent piece from 1864. Carry it in my pocket. It's cheaper to carry now than a silver dollar. no one's going to hit me over the head for it. An electric grease gun. Interesting. Okay. All right. It's a whole lot easier than this. Yep. Yep. Very cool. Very cool. As John Lynn says, I replaced the bushings in my midget swivel axles using a bench vise, pressing in with a jaw and the last bit with a socket, dressed the bushing with a adjustable reamer, and remove the bushing by slicing it with a hacksaw. Oh, getting those old bushings out, it's a horror. We used to, especially in the midgets, they just will not come out of the arms. So we just took the propane or the oxyacetylene torch and turned them into smoke. But unless you got an oxyacetylene torch, and if you got one at home, no one wants to see rubber smoke roiling out of your.
They smell terrible.
Oh yeah, but it's fast, right? I mean, it's the blue tipped wrench. That oxyacetylene torch is one of the, it's just one of those handiest tools. So Steve Leposki says I had a clunk coming from the rear, traced it to the bolts that mount the rear dampers. They were loose. There's another thing, 77 through 80, and that's the rear anti-sway bar. And when those bolts come loose, to tighten them up, those you need a 5/8 and 11/16 wrench. You should always tighten those up. That's on the complete lube list. If you haven't gone to the website, University Motors website, where there's a little button that says "Help John afford his retirement," that's your PayPal button. There's a downloadable complete lube, and in the complete lube, it's got tight. It doesn't have Titan rear shocks. It has Titan front shocks on all the cars because they all come loose. It's real rare that the rears come loose, but the rear sway bar does come loose. So 77 through 80. Can you recommend any quality rear axle straps? Where to get them? No, don't know. Don't know. The ones that are sold right now are fabric, and they come out and just stop. There's no give to them. The original ones had a little bit of give to them. I know we made up some out of the same material that are used on conveyor belts and offered them to one of the major suppliers, and they said, "Oh no, these are far too expensive. We wouldn't be able to sell them." It's like, well, the ones you sell right now last 48 seconds. Ours anyway. So I don't know of anyone. There's the nylon straps that are available. Dave Densmore, airbags for hill climbs or rally. Don't know. Jerry Stewart, Rob Kuhn, Ben Andrews. Speaking of wheel spinners, what is your installation procedure? How tight do you go? Well, wheel hubs, I guess that's part of front suspension. Most certainly is. Spinners, how tight do you get them? Even if you get them too tight, they'll come loose. So, I mean, I've got a dead blow hammer, and I hit it until each hit moves it just a little tiny bit. That's tight enough. They tighten up as a matter of driving. Dave Sanders says, just want to mention, I've seen a lot of TCs with handling problems with the front wheels towed out. We didn't talk about toe in or toe out. I missed that completely. All front wheels should be towed in.
Probably talking about camber.
Well, he's got it towed, spelled TOWD, but it's towed out, and the spec is nil toe in. He says I set his to 1/4 of an inch. The TC also has a problem with the front axle in that the kingpin inclination, which is the caster, is built into the front beam, and if you get it backwards, if you put it in backwards, you got negative camber, negative caster. So it's yep. Here's who's Bob Kuhn says, I found this in an MGB I bought with the original jack bag. I have no idea, but I can't see what it is that he's pointing to in here. But there's the jack that looks pretty horrid in here that Mr. Kuhn has that looks all rusty and nasty. There's also a wheel wrench in there for taking the lugs off. And oh, I see that's the tonneau bar. That's what he's pointing at. The tonneau bar. Excuse me. That's what that. Yep, absolutely. That lots of people look at the tonneau bar and go, I don't, that must be part of the jack. It's not. Makes the tonneau look really nice when it's stretched out correctly. And someone else is already, oh, yep, and it's all covered in mouse urine. Yep, yep. But
Hey, John, I just discovered something. When somebody puts a picture like that in the chat, you can double click on it and it opens up in your picture viewer and you can see it a whole lot nicer.
all right, now I'm gonna try this. I just a second here. Oh my gosh, look at that. Thank
How
you.
about them apples?
Hey, I'm learning. I'm learning on this medium too. Yep, those are the tonneau bars, but all you need is sandpaper and gray paint, and they'll be just like new. So
We'll go for it.
Judd, thank you very, very much. That
Thank
is
you,
so
Judd.
nice. So, and if you read your workshop, your owner's handbook, it tells you exactly how to put the top up and down. I think that's my number. What video is that? Number 3? It's the only video I did with my late wife, Caroline, and that's erecting the top and putting the tonneau on with the tonneau bars. So it's really, really easy. So I'm going down here.
Video number 8.
Video number 8. Okay. And okay, John Clark. Hey, thank you. Let's see, Greg. Local hardware store has great fine thread selection. So anyway, yep, that's a chart of fact. Oh, here Marty's got that. Bob Kuhn from earlier and wire wheels, Moss MWS wire wheels are tubeless. Yes, yep, and that's because they're smeared on the inside with silicone. Lonnie Cook says, my friend who has been racing his TF for years told me to use airframe bolts from Pegasus Racing. They have, just a minute, they have bare shanks where they go through the spring pan. So yes, this has to do with construction. If you get a bolt that's threaded full length and then put a piece of metal on it, it's going to wear there. It's going to chafe. It's going to ruin the hole, and it's also going to reduce the diameter of the bolt. So in that list of factory fasteners that comes in the engine book, it'll say threaded full length for some applications. Some of them not. So anyway, that's real nice. But of course, they don't come in BSF. So Lonnie has put American thread, or worse, metric. Although, metric really fits a T-type better because the whole engine and gearbox are metric. But anyway, what color should the bottle holder be on my 72 BGT? It's black, but I hear it should be robin's egg blue. Yes, that's correct. That's the Tudor, Tudor. That's the Tudor color.
So match the logo on the bottle, John.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. That's. I used to have that at the old shop. We had a can of it because it's so simple. Those things always are rusty and look nasty and shit. You just take it out, hold it with a pair of pliers, and just spray it up, wave it a little bit, take a torch to it or something to get it. Yep. Anyway.
Hey, John, I found that Ford engine blue paint is a pretty good match.
Ford engine blue for two-door. I'm gonna write that down.
There are two, Fred. I think it's the darker blue.
It might be
Really? I
too
would
dark,
think
but
it'd be
it
the
looks
lighter.
pretty good, I thought.
No, no, it's a good match, but there are two Ford engine blues, I think. There's a light blue and a darker blue, and it's the darker blue that's the two-door blue.
Yeah,
Really?
okay.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. And I am at the end of our chat section. So if I have missed you, then holler and I will answer your question. We've got 97 people still hanging on here.
I do have one question.
Sure.
1957 MGA side curtains. And I just can't find anybody that has the right rubber.
I don't know. I don't know. If you call Cecilia, she'll tell you she does.
I think I remember talking to her about it, and I got a pair of some rubber pieces from a gentleman up in Canada.
McGregor, Martin
Yeah, that's
McGregor.
him. Yeah, and he sent me two, but they will not fit in that groove. These are WeatherTech weather shield frames, original frames.
Okay.
And there's a groove up the front that comes off from the windshield side.
I don't even know what to tell you. I can tell you that there's a place, I think it's in Minnesota, called Metro Molded Parts. They've got a catalog, and in the catalog are cross sections. I don't know if they still sell a catalog. I don't know if you go online, don't even know if they still exist. But they had about 100,000 different cross sections of rubber stuff, and with measurements. And you measure yours and you find it in their catalog. I don't know if you got to buy 1,000 feet of it or if you can buy 2 feet of it. I don't know. But
there is a company up in Dallas, North Carolina called Steel Rubber Parts.
Okay. All right.
And they do that.
Okay.
And I found the perfect seal to go over my boot, around the boot.
Nice.
It's perfect because it wasn't every other boot that I would see, the boot would sit proud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this one is the rubber is the right width, half inch, close to that, and it has a dome to it, and it is air inside it like a D.
Okay.
If you look at it at the edge, it looks like a D, and you put it in there, and it allows the boot to just sit perfect.
That's nice.
So anyhow, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I had no idea what a durometer was until, probably 10 years ago. I was talking to one of the engineer guys out at Moss, and we are talking about engine mounts because they'd gotten in a bunch of them that were too stiff. You started the car up and you felt the fender and you go, what is wrong? And it was the motor mounts were too stiff. I think anyway. He said, "Oh yeah, we hit them with a durometer rating." So that's one of the things about some of those seals is it's got to be soft enough to collapse, and still be squishy enough to seal out all the weather and the air and the water and everything. So, yep.
Hey, John. It's
Yes.
Jim.
Hey,
How are
Jim.
you?
I'm sorry that I got the date wrong in my mailer.
No, that's all right.
Event.
All right. We were on the same page, I think, mentally. So, but there's a place called Restoration Specialties. It's in Windber, Pennsylvania, outside of Johnstown.
Okay.
Has an extensive catalog of rubber parts, moldings.
Restoration Specialties.
Restoration Specialties. It's in Windber, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
They have a catalog you can download. I go there quite often looking for things. The nice thing about their catalog is the photographs, everything, all the samples are in there are true to size. So you can match up everything.
Thank you.
They have an extensive inventory and they're nice people too. They
Thank
set
you.
up not at Carlisle. They don't go to import anymore, but they do they do all the Carlisle shows and the October show in Hershey.
Okay. Thank you very much. David Hay's got his hand up. You're a descendant of John Hay, wasn't he Secretary of State at one point? David's trying to get on here, but he's you got to depress the space bar, David, and then you should be unmuted. That's how it usually. There we go. David, what's up?
Hey, just a quick comment and question to the guy who was talking about the panel that's beneath the radiator on late model MGVs.
So, yep.
I understand that's actually that's a splash panel. That's actually intended to keep dirt and water and everything from splashing up from the front suspension into the engine bay.
Could be.
And the original part, yeah, is a really crummy, like cardboard thing that quickly disintegrates into nothing. And I'm in the middle of a complete ground up restoration, and I bought a replacement for it from Moss. And the replacement is actually made out of polypropylene.
Okay.
So it's like a flexible, thick plastic that's actually really nice. So if anybody was considering doing that, yeah, I certainly wouldn't replace it with something similar to the material it originally came with. But I have a question about the suspension, polyurethane suspension bushings.
Sure.
I did my whole front suspension on an MGB using the Super Pro.
Is that the black ones?
Well, people are calling them purple, but they look blue to me.
Okay.
And so I did a complete set, every bushing in there, and my project's taken longer than than I thought it was going to take. But all of those
join
bushings,
the club.
Yeah, yeah. I've been dealing with this for years. The color of those bushings has faded and changed. So they're not blue anymore. The car's not finished. The K-frame is bolted to the car, and she's been through paint, and we're getting ready to put the engine and transmission in it and whatnot. I've not driven the car, but all of those suspension bushings have all turned to black.
Interesting.
And so my question is for everybody else who's used those Super Pro urethane bushings, because they come in an airtight plastic bag, like a sealed airtight bag. When you expose those bushings to air, to oxygen, do they just slowly turn black, which means like they're not new anymore, and that's the indication? Is that normal?
Don't know. I don't know.
Because the red ones don't seem to do that. Because I've
No,
seen
the
the red
red
ones
ones-
on other cars, and they
Red ones
stay
stay red. Yep. I don't know.
But they've all over 6 months they've turned from blue to black. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't know if that was normal, or was that a defective batch, or
There are two other people you can
Put the
call.
red ones on, right?
Two other people you can call. One is Paul Deershaw at Sports Car Craftsman, and ask him what his experience is, or Glenn Lenhard at Glenn's MG Repair in St. Petersburg. But both these guys are running businesses, so you don't want to take up too much of their time. But you can just, you can call and ask. They'll answer as best as they can. And they may have noticed this themselves. They may not have. I'm unfamiliar with it.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yep.
I like your books in the background there, David. I've got same thing here on my desk.
Yeah, those are indispensable books. I
Oh
I
yeah.
was just thinking, I think this is my third attendance to these web things or whatnot. But I was thinking to myself just after the last one that, someone should put together like a presentation of all the quintessential important books that real enthusiasts should own and be familiar with, because so many of the questions that are fairly common, can be answered just by reading those books. But yeah.
Yeah, when I got my 66B, it came with more owner's manuals than I could ever collect.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Haynes manuals are kind of cool. They tell you how to do it with a vice grips and hammer, and
I've got a
that's
hardcover Haynes.
okay. And then the factory workshop manuals, of course, tell you to use special tool 18G 2111. But you can look at that special tool and you say, how can I make that out of a hose clamp and a pair of pliers and a pair of vice grips? It's all helpful. Marty and I have been talking about doing I have a collection of books, and we've been talking about doing one from my the world headquarters of University Motors uh, on West River Drive in Comstock Park, which is Grand Rapids, Michigan. So maybe Marty, let's do that. Let's do a
Yeah.
book.
I've been collecting a book database for 3.5 years now, so it's got hundreds of titles in it. And
But
then some of them I have your commentary though. Like when you say this one's worth having or this one's garbage, this one's pretty but it's useless. So yes, that is part of what we're working on.
Okay, all right.
Now,
We'll do
that's
one of
good
those
news.
soon.
Forgive me for piping in, but John, I think you knew Ken Smith of
Oh,
the
yeah.
MT Parts Center.
Yeah.
So Ken gifted me one of his catalogs, and it is like the King James Bible. And in terms of a reference for every single part, for every the whole MGB history, and identifying every damn option and every damn part, I have found there's nothing like Ken's catalog from the
That's
MG
the old
Parts Center.
that's the Nicenger catalog, right? That
No, it's unique to Ken created it. It's the MG Parts Center.
Okay.
CENTRE, and it's every page is watermarked, and it
Yes.
is an encyclopedia.
They were going to go up against Moss and they ran out of money.
Yes.
Yep. I do believe, now I'm hard pressed to know if I have that or not, but Nicenger was one of the big players in the original Nicenger Corporation. So,
I just checked my book list. We have 443 books in it.
Okay. That doesn't include the recent ones.
I've tracked some of them down. Yeah.
Nicenger is still out there if you want to buy new instruments from.
Well, that's Nicenger Instruments, but the original Nicenger that was selling, just the British car parts that got absorbed into Moss.
Yeah, they were near me when I was working on early cars. You could walk in there and get whatever you needed for carburetors, etc.
Yep. That was then. It was all good stuff because it's still all factory stuff. So, well, it is 9:30, so I'm at 9:34. So I'm gonna start to wind down here. But Doug Clark, are you on? I haven't seen you tonight. If you're
I don't
on,
think he is.
No. All right. So we're gonna go with Marty's number tonight. Absolutely. What did you see?
I saw 204 at 737.
204?
Yep. And that's about how many names I have too.
Okay. All
That's
right.
I got in at 8, so I was late today.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I know.
I
I
still got
figured
you on the
everybody knows.
list.
Where's Ian? I bet everybody was asking that. I was also going to ask. These are posted to YouTube. I usually take notes from the beginning, so I'll just watch back the YouTube video. I love taking notes at these. So
yeah, this will
I'll do
probably be
that.
up on YouTube in the next week or so.
Yep.
I think we've
Lonnie
got all
has his
the
hand up.
We're caught up on them now because we had like a few months worth that hadn't been posted. So if you haven't been to the channel lately, all the YouTubes are caught up.
Are
Lonnie,
the bi-weekly programs available on YouTube?
Are the what?
These every 2 weeks we do.
Mhm.
Are
Yes.
they available on YouTube?
Yes.
Yep. Let me grab that.
Good, because I missed some I really want.
Yeah. Yep. But it's like watching a ball game the day afterwards. It's a lot more fun to watch it live, you know. So, Lonnie Cook, you got your hand up. But you're going to have to unmute yourself first by depressing your space. There we go.
Spacebar didn't work.
Okay.
Question about my steering of my TF. First of all, Ian, by the way, GOF South is this April. We going to see you again?
Yes, sir. Already pre-registered. You bet.
Good, good. So, John, I have a TF. I just rebuilt the front end. Still has the original rack and pinion. Squirted some 90 weight high-poured gear oil in it, and I'm leaking gear oil. It looks like it's coming up somewhere around the pinion where the steering shaft goes in, but it's dry at the steering shaft. There's a big nut on top of the steering rack. It doesn't have the plate and the shims like an MTB. Has a plate in the front with 4 nuts, I think. They're tight. Where's all the oil coming from?
Well, it's could be coming from the rack boots.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay. All right. So it could be coming from that front brass plate that has originally probably had a paper gasket. You can take that front plate off, get it clean, put a little silicone goo on it, push it back in. It's only got 2 bolts. Those are 5/16 22 BSF. And then you can take the adjuster pack off the top, replace the brass bushing if you so choose, take at least a couple of the shims out to make up for the wear that's already occurred, so that brass bushing is pressed harder onto the rack, so it forces it more tightly against the pinion. But the real problem is probably at the pinion, and there's no good seal that goes between the rack housing and the pinion where it comes up to the cloverleaf. That is just a little tiny felt seal in there. And I know in the past we tried to replace them with rubber O-rings, and I'm not sure how well that worked. Eventually, it leaks down to a level where it doesn't ooze out anymore, so it seeks its own level.
I think I'm almost there. It must be coming from up there because it looks like it's going past it's coming from above the plate.
Okay.
That nut that you're talking about with the shims, you can get to that without taking a rack out, can you? There's a cross right above it.
Sure. There's that much room, right?
Yeah, it's an exaggeration.
So you have to use a real thin open end wrench. And it's I think it's 9/16 BSF. I've got some that are like really thin, and I can reach right up in there. And once you get it cracked loose, you can get your fingers up in there and just work it by hand. It's really easy.
Putting it back together, how hard is that if I can't see it?
You can see it. I can see it. So
can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, William.
You have your choice of all models of MGs, and you choose to drive an MGA.
Yes.
And I'm wondering why.
Because it's got bucket seats. I don't like the bench seats from the
Why
TV.
don't you like bench seats?
Well, I don't have a girl that slides over and hip to hip contact anymore. So I like the bucket seats, and I like the power of the MGA. I like the style of the MGA. So, to each his own. Some guys like redheads, some guys like blonde, some guys like other guys. Who's to say? Who's to say, right?
You don't like the speed of the MGB?
I can do 100 in my MGA. I go real fast in that.
I think. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay, all right. You're welcome. David Halliday. Oh, yep. David Halliday, what's up?
Just a quick one, John. I posted on the chat. There's a company in the UK that do the stainless steel splash guards to replace the cardboard ones. They're about $75 US.
Okay, for that splash shield on the underside on the late Model B.
Yeah, they can look nice because they're polished stainless steel and all the rest, and
Okay.
don't fall apart or anything like the cardboard ones.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's
I have
all right.
seen those, although I've always figured they're probably homemade, but yep.
Yeah, they also do stainless steel heat shields as well. I've got one of my HIFs on my 79 BGT.
Okay.
Rather than the original asbestos ones. Well, the UK cars anyway.
Sure. Well, a lot of people switch over to, those heat shields are critical now for all the cars, T types, especially the T types, A's, B's. I mean, it's they getting that heat up to those float bowls and causing the gasoline to boil. Convection, conduction, or radiation, and those heat shields do a great job with radiation. Not a whole lot they can do with convection, but there's no conduction. But anyway, so thank you.